Hi friends! In this episode we'll be talking about making livestock decisions on the ranch or homestead, how to evaluate your decision-making process, and how to use that information to make a better informed decision the next time. To help explain this, I'll be sharing about a frustrating and slightly embarrassing problem we faced on the ranch recently. There are lots of nuggets of knowledge in this episode, so grab your notebook and pen and let's dive in. Hey friends, welcome to the Get Goat-Wise podcast. Are you longing to raise goats and other animals for food but don't know where to start? Do you want to be more self-sufficient and less dependent on the grocery store? Do you wish you had a mentor to walk you through raising livestock? Hi, I'm Millie, animal scientist, cattle girl turned goat rancher, co-owner of Dry Creek Livestock, and simple living enthusiast. For 15 years, I've been on a mission to raise all of our own meat, eggs, and dairy. Here, we'll talk about raising goats and other homestead livestock, how to create sustainable animal management systems that actually work, and a bit of off-grid life with kids and livestock. If you're ready to take control of your food supply, raise livestock with confidence, and provide your family with the most nourishing meat, eggs, and dairy available, you're in the right place. Kick off your muck boots, pour a cup of coffee, and let's talk livestock. Hey there! Do you want to hang out with like-minded folks who are also interested in raising their own livestock and seeking self-sufficiency? Inside the free Raising Goats and Homestead Livestock community, you'll get tips on raising goats and other livestock and ideas to increase your self-sufficiency. Join now at bit.ly/getgoatwisecommunity. You can also become an insider and get weekly emails from me with the latest podcast episode, tips on raising goats and other livestock, real-life information about self-sufficiency and living off-grid, and early bird access to special offers. Sign up at bit.ly/getgoatwiseinsider. Before we get started on today's topic, I want to read a review titled 7 Acres and Full of Dreams. M writes, "Just moved into a 7-acre property and dreaming about how to homestead. Can't wait to learn more from Millie's experience." Thank you. If you'd like to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, scroll down to Ratings and Reviews, click on the purple words Write a Review, then give me stars and tell me what you think. I'd love to hear from you, and you might just hear me share your review on the podcast. Here's what's happening on the ranch. We had our first real snowstorms of the year this week, amounting to 4 to 6 inches of snow. And we are consistently dropping into the 20s every night. I'm glad we don't have electric fence in the ground that needs moved every day. It hit me this week how often we have to make decisions on the ranch or homestead that are really a best guess because there are a lot of factors that we can't control, number one being the weather. It's important to realize that sometimes your best guess is wrong and things don't go as planned. But that doesn't mean you made a bad decision, just that the decision you made with the information you had didn't work out. And that's okay. Make notes of the circumstances and what happened, and then next time you'll be better informed when the same decision presents itself. We've been dealing with a situation that I wasn't sure I wanted to share on here, but I think it's important to share the good and the bad and mistakes that even experienced ranchers make, so here it goes. I've told you about our accidental breeding that happened last year. We left a couple of prospect bucks intact and kind of forgot about them, so they didn't get banded until we weaned at the end of October. Turns out, at least one of those bucks was mature enough and fertile, and he managed to breed 8 does in the last week he was in with them. At the time, I crossed my fingers and figured that if we got through March with no kids, we were fine, and the buck didn't get any bred. Well, they started kidding on the 17th of March. Luckily, the weather was very nice, and they did fine, except for low fertility because of the timing of breeding, so everything had a single kid. This year, I wanted to be sure we didn't have a repeat, so we weaned 6 weeks earlier. In the process of sorting, we left a yearling Spanish doe in with the kids, and when we went to band the butt kids a week later, that yearling doe was in heat and 3 Spanish butt kids were chasing her. If it hadn't been for her being in that pen, I would not have guessed that those bucks were capable of breeding at 10 weeks old. But I watched it happen. I learned that our Spanish buck kids are fast maturing. That's great. But we had a problem and a big decision to work through. Here's what we had to consider and the decision we came to. If those bucks are fertile already, they were in with the yearlings and mature does just a week earlier and could have bred some of them. I wasn't worried about the doe kids being bred, as they just aren't mature enough yet. But if some of the yearlings and mature does are bred, those kids will be due in February. February here is notorious for extreme cold, with temperatures dropping below 0 Fahrenheit almost every night and regular stretches of -20 Fahrenheit or colder. We have the barn, but these commercial does are used to kidding out in the pasture, and when we bring them in the barn at kidding, it's very stressful for them and causes all kinds of mothering problems, usually leading to rejection or injury to their kids. So that's not a practical option. With our off-grid situation, the only way we can get kids warm and dry is to start up the generator and put the kids in the calf warmer. It works great, but again, it's very stressful for the does, and the likelihood of a positive doe kid outcome is slim. You may remember that winter kidding without power was a factor in our decision to sell the show herd. Without knowing if any of the does were bred or not, we could either let things play out and keep our fingers crossed, wait 30 days and test for pregnancy, or give the does Lutalice to make them cycle and shed or reabsorb any early pregnancies. If we waited 30 days to test for pregnancy and the test came back positive, it would have been later than I personally felt comfortable giving Lutalice. Additionally, it's a big deal to draw blood on 100 does. I've had a lot of practice, but there's still a certain level of stress for the does when we do it. So I called my veterinarian, and we had a long and thoughtful discussion about what would be best for the does. We decided that going ahead with Lutalice treatment would be the best option as far as not putting the does in a risky and stressful February kidding situation, which could set them up for future problems as well. We have seen over and over again in does that have a hard first kidding, they struggle the next year to be good moms. I should also mention here that Lutalice in goats is off-label, so it can only be used under the supervision of a veterinarian. The other thing we had to figure out is timing of the Lutalice injections. If we ran everything in and gave it to all of them on the same day, then everything would be in heat in 2 to 3 days, and their cycles would be synchronized. Cycle syncing is one of the primary uses for Lutalice. So when we put the bucks in at the end of December, they would have a big job getting all of their does bred in just a few days, as they would all still be cycling really close together. We decided to treat 10 does every other day, and that would spread their estrus out over a regular 21-day heat cycle. The good news is that I haven't seen a sign of abortion, like blood on the tail, so I feel good that either they weren't bred, or if they were, it was very early and they reabsorbed, which also happens naturally sometimes. As I look at this situation and evaluate, I'm looking at what we did wrong and how to make it better. I simply didn't think those buck kids could mature that fast and be breeding does at 10 weeks old. I know miniature breeds can, but I've never seen that happen in full-size breeds. How do we prevent this in the future? I've mentioned that we tested out banding at kidding this year, and that is looking like a really promising option right now. I'm still waiting to see if we have any urinary calculi trouble with the wethers that were banded at birth, as we're holding on to them a little longer than we have in the past. The downside of banding at birth is that we don't get to see the kids mature before we choose replacement bucks. I think if we select our top does to produce bucks and keep our current selection criteria, then we can leave their buck kids intact to watch as far as their growth and development, then make buck selections at 4 to 6 weeks old, band the ones that don't meet our criteria, wean the buck prospects at 6 to 8 weeks, then we should be in the clear as far as unintentional breeding by buck kids is concerned. All the other buck kids would be banded at birth. That also simplifies the possibility of using artificial insemination and bringing in some outside genetics on our very best does to capitalize on heterosis and avoid disease risk. There will always be challenges and learning with livestock. Both of my goat mentors have stated that any time they thought they were getting things figured out, the goats taught them something new. Keep detailed notes in your production notebook, and when a problem repeats itself, you can look up what you did that worked and what did not. More than once, I've flipped through the pages of my notebooks to find a treatment, solution, or remedy that I knew I had used, but I couldn't remember what it was in the moment. And I think you'll find your notebooks to be a valuable resource as you gain experience raising goats and other livestock. I hope this encourages you in what can be some of the most disheartening situations raising livestock. We will make the wrong decision sometimes, but as long as we use that for learning, it's not failure, it's a lesson. Hey there, thanks for listening today. I'm so glad you're here. If this episode helped you or encouraged you in some way, share the link with your homesteading friends. And if you really want to help me out, click on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and a review. You can connect with me on Instagram or email linked in the show notes, and meet me back here soon for more Get Goat Wise.